Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HDC chat series, where we bring together global thought leaders to explore the groundbreaking insights at the convergence of healthcare and digital innovation. Today, we have the honor and the privilege of having Dr. Cruz from Cognizant. Thank you for joining us today.
Rashida, thank you so much for having us. We're very grateful for the invitation, and we look forward to a very, a meaningful conversation throughout our conversation today.
I am so excited, and please allow me to introduce you through this short bio that's not going to do justice, but for the sake of time is going to be just a couple bullets. So Dr. Lester Cruz is the head of global medical affairs and health sciences strategy in Cognizant, responsible for all three verticals: healthcare, life sciences, and medical devices under the Cognizant Health Sciences Division. He has been instrumental in driving adoption of Cognizant's products and platforms like shared investigator platform, the industry first collaborative SaaS clinical ecosystem, which is across prestigious clinical research sites worldwide. So I'll stop here with everything that you have, and we'll dive in to your background, which will be my first question. You are the head of global medical affairs for life sciences and healthcare Cognizant. And I know prior to this meeting, I asked you a billion of questions about it. So for our audience, can you, before we dive in, can you provide a brief overview of what is Cognizant and its mission, if it's possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Cognizant Technology Solution Company is U.S. headquarters, is a multinational technology consulting and service company. It's a Fortune 500 company with an annual revenue roughly $40 billion annually. And it has a global workforce of almost 350,000 employees across the world. Wow. So with that, you can see that we're constantly on the global audience, learning from, different regions, regulatory, ethical, and compliance, lens. But Cognizant also helps, it helps organizations with various domains, not only an industry vertical, not only healthcare, life sciences, medical devices, where I'm mainly involved, but they also manage, banking, the financial services, healthcare, as we talked, and also life sciences, retail, telecommunications. So they're all over the world and all over, different areas. And their role is to modernize technology, reimagine processes, and transform experiences so they can stay ahead in their business outcomes and in this fast changing world that we live in.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great short overview of what you do, among what you do. And I'm going to go to a little bit more again about Cognizant, which is at the forefront of these processes and digital innovation in healthcare. Can you share some of the technologies, including AI applications, that you believe hold the most promises right now in everything you do, from clinical research and drug development or medical devices?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a conversation if we will not be talking about AI. So I think
That's
it's
right.
the buzzword of the moment, and it has its purpose. But AI, as we all know, is rapidly transforming all industries across the globe. And actually, 70% of all the CEOs expect AI to significantly change the way their companies, are being managed. And it's supposed to create value in the next 3 years. I think it will be before that, but at least 3 years. And the impact of AI is not just limited to productivity gain. As each month we're seeing to bring a new AI power breakthrough, positively impacting one or more processes areas. I mean, start with AI, and now we've moved to Gen AI, and now we're talking about agentic AI. So things are moving very rapidly. So we are anticipating AI to potentially revolutionize all aspects of life sciences industry, starting from accelerating, drug discovery and development, optimizing clinical trials design with automated study, document preparation. I actually work with a company who's very AI driven, and they're doing everything study document related, AI based. All the way to AI recruitment, personalized screening, and even facilitating personalized medicine and precision healthcare to patients. Even a McKinsey and Company report stated that AI and machine learning can boost enrollment up to 10 to 20% and predict real-time enrollment performance. So I think that's where we're heading. And that same report also says that AI-powered digitalized processes such as auto drafting trial documents have cut process cuts up to 50% for sponsors. So that just gives you a little bit of insights and the great opportunity that we have ahead of us. I think is a fascinating time to be within industry, and especially for people like us that come from the medical field, to be able to cross over to the technology side and then just be a liaison or be a person that can help them with the maturity, the development of these tools, and how they can become instrumental in the day-to-day activities that we conduct. I also lastly want to talk about, a part of AI, which is also seen with natural languages processing. And they're playing a critical role because their role is more around real world evidence and how we can bring unstructured data, meaning, doctor's notes or, notes that are not in a very structured form, and use those to understand trends and to understand predictions or understand, what is the outcomes of a lot of these treatments for a lot of these diseases and whatnot. So that's also a part of the AI tools that we have in our hands to hopefully help accelerate and bring value to the world that we're living in today.
That's so much information that I'm overwhelmed, and I'm sure I have to go and watch again all the plethora of information, valuable information that you shared with us about all the possible, how it's being applied, but also the possibilities, especially with the global institution where you're leading several sections and collaborating with people across the globe. So with your experiences across everywhere Cognizant, but also top 15 global biopharmaceutical companies, and what are some of the lessons that you have learned about global collaborations, especially in drug development, clinical research, or any other aspect, any areas that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I think that a large scale is about collaboration. When I look back, the opportunity that we've had in front of us is that for years, pharmaceutical companies noted that clinical trial sites were heavily burdened by using many different platforms, each one requiring unique logins, credentials. And even myself, being in those days in a particular site, I felt like, a lot of administrative work and just trying to keep up with all the, logins and trainings and everything related. So I think that sponsors came together with a good outcome in mind to help the sites. How can we alleviate a lot of these, burden that the sites were having? And in addition, we haven't talked about the high costs and redundant efforts involved in developing and maintaining, individual sponsor portals. The existence of disparity processes and tools within these portals increase both the risks and also the error and support needed for site users. So I think the Share Investigator platform, which is the first open industry SaaS platform that I had the privilege to be part of, came from Transcelery, which is a non-for-profit organization and 20 of these big pharma company came together with the vision, the idea of having, and build a cross industry solution in order to support some of these challenges that a lot of the sites were facing. So again, pharmaceutical companies chose to adopt SIP to increase the engagement with the investigator sites and eliminate the need for the maintaining and the company sponsor specific that was at the time. Now that hasn't come lightly. There's been a lot of challenges, and we've learned a lot. I always say we have been great students of when implementing a global platforms. What are some of the things that can go right, but most of the things that can go wrong? And I think we have, again, great lessons learned, best practices. Have we fixed everything? No. There's always, this is a never-ending product that we're constantly working every single day. But at least I can say every week we have a focus team that goes into a meeting just to try to continue to simplify and continue to streamline and continue to work on processes and workflows, because we know that we're not there yet, but have we made significant changes, improvements throughout the years? Yes, but I think, again, more work to be done, and we're very excited for the challenge. And the whole idea is to build, and sustain an effective collaboration, like I said, partnership between the sites, networks, and sponsors, CROs. And it's critical to have a win-win ecosystem from sponsor CRO standpoint, engaging sites and also giving them a seat at the table is essential, as is going to be important to listen from them directly on what they're looking for, what they see that helps them in their day-to-day activities, and what might be a disruptor, it might be an enabler, or something that is not effective in the activities that they do. So again, these pharmaceutical company sponsors are investing heavily in these site-centric technologies, and also make sure that there's a simple, most of the time free of cost for the sites, or at least low cost for the sites, and can help the sites with easy access to all sponsors technology through a one single access or one single login. And again, I think this is it's been an effective way of doing things. Even 10 years after the implementation of this platform, we still see a lot of the needs that can be addressed with these multi-sponsor collaborations. And we are every year after year, receiving better and better inputs and insights and feedback from the site users that, okay, you guys are getting it right, because it was not always like that, especially at the beginning. So we're very excited what we're seeing and looking forward to what the future holds for this particular initiatives.
This is amazing, especially when you said the efforts that you're doing are always ongoing efforts. It's not one time and we're done. And you're working on a global platform where collaboration is a key. And I know from reading your extensive background that you worked with major US and international research institutions, just to name a few: Johns Hopkins, MD Anderson, NIH in the UK. You also talked about how you're using technology to bridge gaps between global research sites that you just talked about. And I'm going to move my question into, you talked about this share investigator platform, or what you call it, SIP, if I'm not mistaken. Can you, I know you talked about it a little bit, but can you dive a little bit further how it is transforming sponsor sites, collaboration, and what is the impact on clinical trial efficiencies, which is beyond my area of expertise, and if you can share that with our audience a little bit deeper.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, and sometimes you see the product, but you don't see the work behind. And as you were saying, collaboration is key, not only in orchestrating, these sponsors, talking about at the beginning, 7 of the top 15 biopharma companies, each one with their own needs or their own priorities, and at the same time, then helping them with the sites, the research institutions that also have, their own, SOPs or processes or workflows. So our orchestrating all of that, I think, has been key in order to make the progress that we've made. But when you look at the research sites globally, they look at technology as a supporting function, and that is hopefully enabling them to conduct trials more effectively and efficiently. And their main job is to see patients. At the end of the day, they're there to do clinical trials, which is, again, do what's best for the patients. And me coming from that side of the aisle, understanding the day-to-day activities, understanding the challenges that a site faces with limited resources, or again, against the clock, and making sure that they're doing the right thing, it was very important for me to bring that site perspective into a group of engineers or product developers that have not had that exposure. So I think sites appreciate technology tools which are easy to use, they're intuitive, and help them manage, document electronically, centrally, help them track, their patients more accurately. But however, when technology tools and platforms are put, which with and they essentially increase or duplicate their work, then the term technology overload becomes a real thing. And this is something we've heard over and over. So I think we are witnessing the quite frequently among research sites globally, which is increase their frustration, and then delays on their timelines and whatnot. So having that visibility into the impact of technology, especially when we're talking about technology overload, this is very important for sponsors to have visibility into that, and also for technology vendors like Cognizant that I work for to also have a seat in the table, because that allows us to bring creativity. It also allows us to try to find what is the best way forward. And remember, no site kind of operates the same. So you really have to have an understanding of that global lens of these sites, networks at the regional level, and make sure that they are, being supported in that particular, area. And that's why we've built within Cognizant a global a medical affairs team that are specialists in this field of their combined love for medicine, science, and technology, and making sure that they're there to support the sites and making sure that those get prioritized at the regional level, and not just have to wait, log in a ticket and wait 30, 60 days for that to get resolved. So we're putting, again, a point of contact there to be able to manage and to tackle some of those initial challenges. But as we look forward, I think sites are looking to build a culture of connectivity and interoperability, and they're wanting to keep their systems and make these platforms to be reusable, but at the same time to also connect to some of the investment that they have already done. So robust integration and partner ecosystem, I think, is key when we look at the landscape of the conduction of clinical trials. And it's going to help ease a little bit and smooth the adoption of these technologies at the site level, and hopefully reduce the site burden, and at the same time allow for more efficiencies, better collaboration, and better outcomes as we look into the future. So as we look now, again, we've already started we integrated to the sponsor system. That took some years to get it right, and make sure that point documents were landing and all that specificity that needs to get into them. But now we're starting to focus site facing, and how do we start bringing some of those systems into the ecosystem, so that you have a broader ecosystem of systems that are now able to share information, documents, and whatnot, And we've gone already into some of the regulatory documents at the site level. They call it EISF systems, where a lot of the sites in-house most of these regulatory documents, and they already have them. Why not, pull them from that particular system and then share into the sponsor site? And that's what we've done. We built, some APIs, and in the beginning, actually, now we build a whole system. It's called the Cognizant Clinical System Connector, where it brings those documents from, into that system via a system like SIP, or it can do it independently without the use of SIP, and just helping the sites to speed up the sharing of those documents. And then we also see some interest to even expand beyond those into the EMR or eSource, systems, connect to those, or the EDC system. Those are site systems that are very used by the sites. And by having those connections, then we can start building these bridges that are now available, so that when me as a physician or PI go into a system, I can move from one system to another without having to log in back and giving all of my credentials, and may not be the day where my password expire, because then you have to start renewing password, calling people, if not just by a single login, and using biometrics like we use on our iPhones and whatnot to access some of these systems, and make sure that they are also being integrated. And I can see again a day where all these sites, they have a concept that is being more and more, which is called buyout, or bring your own technology for research sites, which will help them stick to technology platforms where they have invested and they want to use the studies with those technology that the sponsors recognize those systems. And then we look for the opportunity to integrate, and not every time that we have a new trial start with a new technology, a new training, and a new process, because these sites, they run a lot of trials, and it's all about reusability, sustainability, and then efficiency. And that's what I believe that we're heading, and that's what we're working for. Easier said than done. There's a lot of regulatory, legal, compliance. As you know, this is an industry that's very heavily regulated. But I think by sitting at the table and having meaningful conversations, we can definitely get to that place. I remember a time where no, this cannot be done, no integration. This is and now we're starting to see a different opinion about this, because we want our sites to be happy. We want these trials to be successful. We want patients to get the care that they deserve. But in order to do that, again, it takes a village and a lot of time behind the scenes to make sure we get that done correctly.
Dr. Cruz, I think we definitely need episode part 2. There is no way we can cover even a quarter of what you can bring to this table. Also, the researcher in me, you're bringing that curiosity and that inquisitiveness that is calling for a research case study. And I'll reach out to you offline, because a lot of researcher and healthcare professionals can benefit from a possible use case that I'm calling you on this platform. I'll reach out. You talked a lot about these sites and clinical system connectors. You also mentioned the legal and regulatory environment that healthcare calls for just because of all the data being involved. Are there any legal or ethical frameworks or guiding principles that Cognizant and your team use when developing technological or AI solutions in a sensitive environment such as healthcare where you operate?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, they are. And I would say that, again, we work with multiple teams across different departments, and everyone has their own expertise. And at least our function within medical affairs to bring all of those teams together, so that we're working out of a single call or working out of a single table. and making sure that we're understanding, where we have some challenges or where we have a little bit of a slower process. There might be a legal reason behind it, or there might be an ethical. So it's very important to understand all the different, departments that are working. But what I can say at this moment is that there's still, it's very early days in the large scale of these systems and processes to work, and we really need to continue to work together to find what are the best use cases or the best scenarios where we can bring this conversation to life, and then try to get some kind of understanding among the teams on how to better do. Every day is an opportunity for us to do things better, and that's the way I see it. So with the teams that I've developed, I think it's all about bringing the right stakeholders to the table and making sure that we are having an understanding of each other's roles and responsibilities and accountabilities, but at the same time pushing the limit every single day a little bit farther, because at least from my lens, I see this. The reason I do this job is because I know there's a patient on the other side who probably doesn't have a lot of time, and they can benefit from this particular commercialization of this drug coming to market faster, with the right safeguards and rails behind it, but making sure that we understand why we do what we do, and not taking a no for an answer, not just having a deeper conversation and talking about the ability that we have, and the opportunity that we have in our hands to do what we do. Of course, data privacy, security risks, and navigating complex regulatory landscape, they pose obstacles, especially in terms of adoption and implementation and whatnot. But I believe that, again, with the right team, the right mindset, and the right effort, we can continue to move the needle into that right direction. And in terms of when we're talking about AI and all that, understanding that we need to understand what the human touch points are of these technologies, and understanding that how researchers and providers and even patients will work with these alongside. And I believe that, again, AI advancement, they're critical. They're quite critical. But importantly, we must ensure that they're being validated, and they're also being with the human in the loop, to make sure that what comes out of these systems, and even if they're intelligent tools or not, making sure that we have human in the loop validating their reproductivity and what is coming out of them. And that is what I believe we have a unique opportunity of, people like me that used to be more on the medical side and are now in technology, that we serve as that guardrail. We serve as that, human in the loop, to making sure that these systems are being matured properly, but they're also, keeping the best interest of the humans behind, or what we're using them, as they continue to evolve and these models continue to come forward.
Now I understand why I invited you to this podcast. Again, you bring so much wealth and different perspectives that are complementary to my background. I come from the IT, the digital, and the AI side, and started implementing everything using the healthcare context. Hearing from you, coming from a physician side and then embracing technology, we definitely meet somewhere in the middle. And you talked so much through this episode about the collaboration and interoperability, and seeing and putting together all different aspects to be able to care for the patient. And this is something that only physicians, when they care for a patient, when I hear you talking, that empathy that comes from being trained as a physician that care ultimately about the patient. Yes, you can use any tool out there, but the care of the patient is at the core of what you do. So now I'm moving, as you can see, I'm moving to your personal journey and leadership vision that transcend technology itself. So you started as a physician, then you moved, transitioned from what we say the bedside to the boardroom. How did that shape how you see the role of technology in medicine today?
Yeah, so I think I was very privileged because my journey started before COVID. I used to be, a very hands-on provider, more pen and paper. In my days, it was all about, faxing, scanning. Yeah, there was more email, but I was a very, hands-on. And before COVID, I got this opportunity, and I say very humble. I think I was very fortunate and lucky because I was a front, provider, and that, as we know, that line of defense was much impacted by the COVID, years and era and whatnot. So when I came to the technology side, I was very impressed with a lot of the cutting edge technology, but it was not at this level. I think that the years of COVID helped expedite the art of the possibility and just rethink the way that we were doing a lot of our work. So it was very interesting for me to be part of that evolution. And when I look back now, 7 years back, and they see me as one of the first pioneers to bringing kind of these medical lens into a technology vendor and develop these global team, I think I credit it to that because we needed to have that global lens during the years of the pandemic. So my point here is that, again, I was very fortunate to join Cognizant, and working with all of these engineers and product developers and project managers and whatnot. And it took me a while. I say it was a year or so that people said Dr. Cruz is a little bit lost, but I was actually learning. It was a learning curve for me because I needed now to adapt from the clinical side into a technology where even the terminology that they were using, it was completely new for me. So I remember I got in those calls and I was like, scratching my head, am I in the right place or not? But once you understand, the APIs, or you understand the technology and you understand the system integration and you understand what they're trying to do, then it becomes very similar to the way that the brain operates, because it's just connectivity between, different parts of the brain, and how do you bring that message together. And that's what we're trying to do now with systems. So again, my point here is that it took me a while to get there. It took me a while to realize that there was other vendors beyond our own team that were part of that ecosystem, and then making sure that you find the right, the right fit to bring everyone to collaborate together. It takes a while, but once you get there and you really understand, and then the focus goes back on the sites, then I was able to excel because I knew what an investigator, went through on a good day and on a bad day. I knew the importance of the regulatory people. I knew the importance of the supporting staff, like the coordinators and study managers and all that. So now it was about, let's find areas where we can give them an opportunity to shine. And we developed channels of engagement. May that be task forces, or may that be, through a panel discussion, or may that be by some, user groups that we built together, where then we had a direct feedback from these users. And I think that helped me reshape, my career and my expertise in the field, because now I'm getting direct feedback, not only from the sponsors that are needing and wanting, certain things. I'm also in the vendor side, where I know how hard things are to get done or to bring capability or functionality, because you have limited releases throughout the year and you have some, timelines. And if you don't do it in that timeline, then it takes longer than expected. But then also you have the direct feedback from the site users that are the ones that are using your technology. And I remember in my early days when I used to go to conferences, they call me the SIP guy. You can call it SIP or SIP, but they call me the SIP guy. And they're probably throwing a lot of tomatoes at me. But that helped me. It helped me be in their shoes and take this in a personal matter, that I am not going to rest until we get things better and we get things right. And that has been a model that we have been able to, implement within Cognizant, is that every single day is an opportunity to do things better. And then on top of that, then we started, adding site management capabilities. We started, doing that at the regional level, because this is a global platform. A lot of the platforms that you'll see are mainly in the U.S., but this is something that also has users in Australia, for example, or it has users in the UK, where the health systems are different than the ones that we have in the US. And you have to take that into consideration, because when you're bringing a functionality or capability, it has to work for all, not just the US based users. So that global mindset brought me to bring then a global medical affairs team that were also now in charge of more effective communication with users and sponsors, and then really understanding the use cases that we needed to bring to the platform in order to make this platform serve all the purposes that it wanted. So again, it has been, like I always say, a learning experience. It has been humbling, but us representing the voice of the sites and making sure that they have a seat at the table, and making sure that now that they have, we can do work together, like white papers or podcasts or publications, or, all the great work that we do. I feel rewarded, because I feel that now they're seeing this effort as the best in their interests. Not that it was always never intended, but we needed to get to that relationship, so that now we can really focus on what are the areas that we want to improve and want to be better, and get behind the noise that this is too disruptive, this cannot be done, and all the things that you hear at the beginning. And also now you're starting to bring, thoughtful leaders and KOLs across the world, and having, being able to sit with them and having a conversation on where what they like, they don't like, but what they see the future of the product or these platforms are, and how do we take that into consideration. So working closely with the sites and the sponsors, I think, has been very rewarding. And again, also having these collaboration with our global medical affairs team at the regions, so that we understand the differences, again, like we said, with compliance, regulatory, and ethical, and making sure that we're keeping that in mind as we're building more and more functionality within the SIP, or the Share Investigator platform.
Dr. Cruz, quick question. Why is it that key leaders and high achievement thought leaders are so humble? You shared everything. It is such a humbling tone. You shared groundbreaking initiatives, yet you're so humble. Why is that?
Well, I'm a student. I always see myself as a student. I am passionate about, what I do. And I think it's very important that we keep the end in mind. And I want to go back to that, what makes me wake up every day to go to work is I know there's some patients that are going to be benefiting from, when we do a good work, and they're also going to be affected when we don't do, a great job. So I think I'm passionate what I do. I'm a student of the game, of the regions, of the logistic, even starting to learn other areas, like we're talking about intelligent tools and engineering and project management, and things that when you go to medical school you don't get trained in. I think it has allowed me to just expand my knowledge and my vision. And that is something that I take, into my own, that I need to get better every day. I need to look for other areas to continue to grow and to continue to improve, so that I can serve better the community that is there, depending on us to put the best product forward in order to support the incredible work that they do at these sites, with the clinical research, and again, the sharing of data, because without that data, then we don't get the knowledge, we don't get to grow, we don't get to expand. So I guess I've become a student of the game, and I want to keep myself humble because there's so much that I don't know, that I still need to continue to keep learning every day, continue to learn from my colleagues, continue to grow with my teammates, and just try to do the best that we can every single day.
Please don't learn too much till you take over my expertise. Just kidding. I still need to collaborate with you at the intersection of AI and healthcare. You made a point earlier about moving to the, I won't say the other side, but a different side from your expertise, and being humble about learning all the different terminologies. That reminds me when I started doing research and applying it into the medical and healthcare field, and there were so much jargon and so many KPIs, whether it's from the clinical side, and at that point I'm like, okay, it's just clinical. Then no, there's operational side, there's the financial side, and each one of them. So it was just a mind-blogging area where I was seeing it just from a patient rather than all this ecosystem where all different parts, from legal, medical, IT, technology, we all have to collaborate together. So thank you for, again, that perspective that is bringing so much, I think, clarity, but hope as well, and humbleness, and continue to learn forever. Thank you for that. You also said there are good days and bad days into everything we all do, but in what you do. And therefore, innovation and progress are not without challenges. And I'm getting to the tough one. What are some of the toughest challenges you encountered in your journey? How did you solve them through, I'm going to focus on the one on technology and innovation. And if you can use some examples that you are able to share with us.
Yeah. So I think, there's when I look at the challenges, is again, the collaboration across different stakeholders, because again, everyone has their own priorities, everyone has their own needs. So I think it's very important that not only you have those group sessions where you're kind of understanding the team, the sponsors and the vendors, wants and need, but also that you take the time to meet them on a one-on-one level. Because when you go into deeper conversations with these stakeholders, that you really start to getting a clearer picture based on your skills and what you can deliver, how you can help these persons and then these groups to work better together. But I think we have tremendous opportunities within the digital health era, digital health transformation. And of course, that all comes with ethical and responsible adoption of these intelligent tools and system, and the interoperability of system to communicating. And I think that they also can be they can also be impactful when adopted correctly, in order to help with the value chain of life sciences, starting from accelerating, like we said, more toward drug discovery and development, faster study design, creating these, study protocols that are more meaningful, or at least they are more downstream of all the steps that need to take place after that. We talked about the recruitment process, and we also talked about the safety reporting, sharing of the safety reporting, with a scalability, not have to be one-on-one, if not be able to share that with the person or the sites that are involved. So again, I think that the challenges that lie are going to be how do you continue to train people to be more knowledgeable of these systems, make sure that you have the right infrastructure in place to be able to scale up, and then the combination of of skill sets, that before I think everything used to be, medicine was very focused on medicine, technology was technology, healthcare was, but now we have the opportunity to cross fields and bring our expertise, and at the same time get ourselves educated in a particular area. And if I were to, to your audience, or to share, you know, uh, uh, my recommendation to the normal audience is that please try to scale yourself up in these particular topics, because as we said at the beginning, and over the next 3 years, a lot of our jobs are going to be reevaluated, reimagined. They're probably not going to look the way that we are seeing them today. And doesn't mean, and yes, some jobs might be, replaced, but the human in the loop will always be there. And at least, we are in the center of everything that is happening right now. So I would say take a course in AI, or take a course in Gen AI, or Agentic AI. Skill yourself, train yourself, make sure that you are evolving, because as you continue to evolve, then you're going to have a better position in a job, or a new role, or a new capability. And I think this is the opportunity that we have in front of us, is to make sure that we're all evolving with these great tools are there to do, the best that they can for humanity, and hopefully improve, accelerate a lot of the activities that we do on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. You shared so many insights, including interdisciplinarity, which is really important. We cannot work in our own area of expertise without collaborating, whether within contacts or new technologies or area of medicine, and and all these opportunities that are rising due in this technological era. I'm going to share something as an educator as well. I have a joint appointment, as you know, for both the School of Business and Department of Business Analytics and Information Systems, but I have a joint appointment at School of Medicine, where I also advise medical students, and we are integrating all these analytical skills and AI into the curriculum of our medical students, because that's what they're stepping into. It's not the old traditional piece and paper and you're writing all these notes about your patients. So they understand the power of data and how they can leverage the speed and the somewhat accuracy, mostly speed, into helping with diagnoses and augmenting the care for their patients. So with all these opportunities in the digital era, what scares you the most about AI?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think not that it scares me, but we really need to make sure that these tools are, are brought upon the users in the right way, with the right approach. And what I mean by that is, again, I'll give you an example of something I went through, and I want to make sure that, again, when I saw that, I saw, is that my mom or my grandma on that bed? Is that something that I would want for her? And I was just in a lab, a very AI lab, and they were talking about, some of these technologies, teaching students on surgeries for patients. And you can think of all the things that could go wrong, even when you have years of experience doing a lot of these, surgeries or activities or whatnot. Things can go wrong. Imagine when there's not that human in the loop, when there's not that emotional component, that's a human being there. So again, right away, as you know, raised my hand and got all the clarity. But my point here is that we have to make sure that you said that these tools are there to enhance, are there to make us be more effective, make us be more productive. And that's the way I envision these technologies working with us, at least for the next few years, where they're going to be an enabler. They're going to make us sure to, hey, you haven't thought about this. How about if you do this as an option? So I think when we look at these technologies like that, that's the way that I believe that they should be used, and make sure that at the same time start eliminating a lot of the redundancies and a lot of the repetitive work, that there's no need to really invest time doing that when you can be doing something more productive or whatnot. So again, the risks on those AI initiatives, I will probably put them in three words. We talked about the technology overload, and we'll talk a little bit more. The second will be the data quality, and then probably the third would be prompt injection. But in terms of the technology overload, that's where we really want to be reusing a lot of these technology tools. Make sure that we're sharing data wherever possible, making sure that we're eliminating those redundancies. Decrease the multiple steps to get something done, when these technologies can be leveraged. And I call again, we've been doing this for 10 years now. We're seeing some of the benefits, more work to be done, but I think that having that collaboration across sponsors, CROs, and sites is definitely key in us to cut time on the clinical trial activity. May that be all the way from study startup to the conduction to the closure, even budgets and negotiation. We talked about some of the AI use for study documents that can again be more user friendly, improve, have the end in mind as you're getting started. I think are very important. On the data quality, then those are making sure that these AI tools will be just as good as the reference data sources are, and AI tools should not be tapping into garbage data or data that has not been verified, because we all know that based on the data is how good these systems can potentially be. So I think that's very important. And then on the prompt injection, again, specifically for AI models, this is where appropriate guardrails, I believe, should be implemented to block any malicious, prompts, or otherwise we may run the risk of the input prompt getting manipulated or controlled at the AI model behavior, and also eliminate biases and things that could potentially scale up and decrease for increased disparity or health inequality or whatnot. So I think overall, as I mentioned earlier, it's always critical to ensure guardrails through the thoughtful implementation and responsible oversight for any AI tool or product to be successful.
There's so many more questions I want to ask you. Just every time you speak or you respond to one, I'm like, I come up with at least 3 or 4, but I'm going to be mindful of your time and definitely schedule part 2. Can you give us one sentence as a final thought before we wrap up?
I think, short advice probably is to make sure that you are keeping up to speed with, these technology, even coming from the medical field. Like I said, we were never trained in these tools, but my message always when I'm with the medical community in a lot of these medical affairs conferences, it's very important nowadays for the medical fields to understand all the different types of intelligent tools that are out there, at least understand how they work and how they can potentially help you improve, your day-to-day activities. Be that, partner that can help you make better decisions, better judgment, make sure that your critical thinking is there, and giving you options, maybe options that you haven't even thought about, and you consider that at the end of the day, you'll be making the decision. But I think it's the new way of thinking, and I hope that anyone in the medical field again is taking a course in AI or agentic AI or machine learning, because this is something that is going to be a core part of what we are going to be facing in the upcoming years or whatnot. So to keep up with these trends and ensure that you are working with those new skills, I think will be my recommendation. And again, I'm more than happy to share my contact information, and anyone has questions or would like to get more information, I will be very interested in working with them and helping them, scale up with any of these particular topics.
I will absolutely put a link to your site and some contact information you're willing to share with the posting of this video. Well, last time you brought so much richness to today's conversation, and I can't thank you enough on behalf of myself, and everybody watching and listening. Thank you again, Dr. Cruz, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rashida. Thank you so much.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the organization or entity represented by the presenter.